there is a new sign for President Trump and the Republican Party, and it's a warning. A fresh poll from Gallup is out that could put Republicans on shaky ground in the midterms if the president's approval rating is an indicator of how they'll do. CNN's chief data analyst, Harry Enten, is here. All right, give us the goods on what this new Gallup poll says.
I mean, it's a disaster if it holds towards the midterm elections. And I should note, of course, it's not alone. I mean, just take a look here. This is Gallup. This is the longest running poll. You know, Gallup has been conducting polls since my father was a kid, and my father was born in 1927, had me in the 60s. Look at this in January. Donald Trump's net approval rating. Not too bad, not too great. It was at -1 point, right within the margin of error, breaking even. But look at this now. Negative 24 points, way, way down. We're talking about a drop of over 20 points in the wrong direction for the President of the United States. Minus 24 points, that's a 23-point move in the incorrect direction if you're the president. And of course, what's so important here, Sarah Seidner, is it matches the trend that we've seen with other polls. That is Donald Trump hitting his low for the second term. I was doing the count last night. I think we're up to 10 polls in sort of the last 40 days, 10 different pollsters who have said that Trump is at the lowest point he is in his second term.
So how does this compare to other presidents in their second term at this point in time?
Yeah, okay. So, you know, this is one of these great examples where I kind of run out of room on the slide.
You sure did.
Yeah, I run out of room on the slide, so I just put up the Republican presidents. But look, the only one who's worse for me, either among Republicans or Democrats at this point in his second term, is Richard Nixon. And of course, Richard Nixon had to wave adios amigos goodbye less than a year after this poll was taken. He was at minus 36 points. Trump at minus 24 points. That beats, or is worse, I should say, beats in the wrong direction. George W. Bush, minus 19 points. His Republican Party, of course, suffered major losses in the 2006 midterm elections. Dwight Eisenhower, plus 31 points. Donald Trump has never smelt that at all. I had to go into the archives to dig up that photo. And Ronald Reagan at plus 41 points. But again, it also is worse than Harry S. Truman. It's worse than Lyndon Baines Johnson. It's worse than Barack Obama. It's worse than Bill Clinton. Anywhere you look, this is the second worst for a president of either party at this point in their second term, dating all the way back since the 1940s.
Wow. All right. Look, what does this mean for the midterms? Because are you seeing a trend that it's linked to how people feel about the president?
Yeah, okay. So, you know, we always say, hey, look, you know, we still got 11 months until the midterm elections. Right. That's forever in politics. So I decided to go back and look at this point in the second term. What happened? What was the trend line heading into the midterm elections? Were there any presidents who saw their net approval ratings rise by more than 5 points? Well, guess what, Sarah Seidner? You go all the way back since Harry S. Truman. 0 out of 8 times did the president's net approval rating rise by over 5 points. And of course, Donald Trump, right now in Gallup, minus 24 points. He's in the minus teens according to the average. If he does not see a rise of more than 5 points, see you later, that Republican majority. It has never happened. Of course, we live in such a weird time in politics. Who knows? We live in a weird time, but he's going to have to break history, Sarah Seidner.
All right, we will have to see, Mr. Harry Enten.
We will see.
The latest Gallup poll numbers are in, and they do not bode well for President Trump. The president's job approval rating has fallen to 36%, the lowest of his second term. Meanwhile, his disapproval rating rose to 60%. For comparison, Trump's all-time low was 34% at the end of his first term, following the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Gallup's latest numbers are from a poll conducted during what became the longest federal government shutdown in U.S. history. Here to break that down for us and more is our political panel. Brian Tyler Cohen is the host of the No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen podcast, which is seen by hundreds of millions of people on his YouTube channel. And Republican strategist John Fleischman is here. You can read his work at SoDoesItMatter.com. Great writing there. Also the publisher of the Flash Report. Brian, welcome back. John, good to have you here for the first time.
Thank you, sir. Great to be here.
So let's start with President Trump's approval rating. What do you make of that, Brian?
I think that people are recognizing the con that they've been sold. This guy swept into office amid a fury of populist promises that he would lower the cost of groceries, of eggs, of housing, of rent. And then he got into office, engaged in a trade war that sent the cost of everything surging, cut everybody's health coverage, Medicaid, ACA subsidies, food assistance. And on top of all of that, had the audacity to actually focus his attention on encrusting his Oval Office in gold, building a $350 million ballroom, buying a couple of Gulfstream jets, getting his own Qatari jet that he retrofitted to the tune of $1 billion, paid for by American taxpayers. And so, I mean, it's just...
He says that one won't be, but we'll see. Your point taken. You're not a fan.
Right.
What do you think? I mean, and do you agree? Do you think the president's doing a good job?
Well, I guess the short answer is I think the president's doing an infinitely better job than Harris would have done. Not surprising from your conservative panelist. But I think that these polling numbers all need to be taken in context, because if you go back and look all the way back, Reagan, Clinton, Obama, both Bushes, Carter, Ford, Johnson, Truman, all at some point during their presidencies had polling numbers in the mid-30s, just like Trump does. It goes up and it goes down. I will say the economy is a problem for the president, and I think that becomes the biggest issue. I think while a lot of the stuff that my panelist here has brought up are sensational, I don't think the approval numbers for the president rise or drop based on whether or not he's putting an addition on the White House. But when people's prices, when they're buying groceries, when people are buying gas and those prices go up, that's a problem. And when the president decided to go out and he definitely said, we're going to end the Biden economy and we're starting the Trump economy. And he imposed all of these tariffs, taxes, right? I think that's not had a good effect on the price of goods. And we've now seen him now scrambling and actually untariffing a bunch of things, which is a challenge. But the polling numbers don't really bother me. They may bother him, because I think he's very concerned about what his polling numbers are. This stuff goes up and it goes down. It's the nature of things.
You pointed out that Ronald Reagan had lower poll numbers and then went and won 49 states.
Right. In 1982, there was a recession again. It's economy related. And so I think that President Trump over the next year, if he's able to turn the economy around, he will save the midterm elections. But if the economy stays where it is right now, it's not going to be a positive night for Republicans next November.
And it's interesting you're saying the way to turn the economy around is to get rid of the tariffs that he implemented.
That would be one helpful thing. I also think when all the great economic policies in the One Big Beautiful Bill get implemented, that's going to have an overcharging effect on driving the economy, as my colleague will tell you.
I'm sure that cutting Medicaid from 17 million Americans and cutting food assistance to the tune of $186 billion is going to just send the economy surging.
Yeah.
Well, again, I would remind you, especially like we're talking about the Medicare subsidies right now. These were a COVID-era policy that were passed on the idea that during COVID, these would go up. And then on a completely partisan budget rescission bill, Democrats extended the temporary cuts for another 2 years. And now everybody wants to extend them again. So the idea is that on the political left, we don't care about the budget deficit. What we care about is growing the welfare state and giving more and more subsidies.
Well, I would ask, you're a conservative. Is it conservative to blow up the deficit to the extent that they have $4 trillion over 10 years?
Of course not. Of course not.
Well, that's what the One Big Beautiful Bill does.
Well,
it was the
that's
biggest
because the One Big Beautiful Bill did not have enough cuts in it. If we're going to get rid of the deficit, we need to true up federal spending.
But it's not about eliminating the deficit.
Sure
it was
it
never
is.
about eliminating the deficit. Donald Trump in his first term added 25% of all debt that we have. His second term now adding another $4 trillion. These Republicans,
If you're asking me to confirm for you that deficit spending is a bipartisan problem that is done by presidents of both parties, absolutely. But it's not good policy for America, because it is to say to our grandchildren, we have a $48 trillion debt. I watched some congressmen say, I think from Northern California, say, hey, I got money for a fire engine for my district. And I'm thinking, really? You actually just borrowed money from our grandchildren to buy a fire engine. And so everything's turned around in Washington.